what you said was,
Are we recording this?
yeah. So
I
can
question the judgment of that.
Hello, and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week, we continue our Satanic Panic Summer Series with the 1973 film Satan's School for Girls. This is episode 307. Bear in mind, if you haven't seen today's movie, we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of horror fans who have seen it. So, warning, spoilers ahead. By the way, yes, the 1973 version of Satan's School for Girls, not the 2000 remake with Shannon Doherty. I'm sure it's excellent. I just have not seen it. All right. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson, writer of the book, The Bookman, which is with us this June, just joined us this June. With me from Austin is Tony Salvaggio, tech director at Rooster Teeth, lead singer and bassist of the band Deserts of Mars, and lead guitarist of the band Rise from Fire. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
Howdy. Also in Austin, Mr. Drew Edwards is the writer-creator of the long-running underground comic Halloween Man, currently published by Comixology. He's the winner of a 2018 Best of Austin Award from the Austin Chronicle and a member of the PEN America Fellowship. Drew, say hello.
Praise the Dark Lord, a.k.a. Jeff Bezos.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. He is the one who enabled us to watch this movie for no extra cash. That's a remarkable future that would never have been anticipated by anybody in this movie.
And a true Faustian pact, to be sure.
Yes.
Yes.
And finally, also in Denver, as always, color commentary from attorney Julia Guzman of Guzman Immigration of Denver. Say hello, Julia.
Hello, hello.
Hello. All right. Satan's School for Girls, which is honestly, I swear to God, one of the greatest titles of all time, is a 1973 American made-for-TV, I don't know if you can tell, horror film, directed by David Lowell Rich and produced by Aaron Spelling. The film has been named as one of the most memorable TV movies of the 70s. All right. Let's do our opening thoughts. And I said this before hearing how excited Drew was to talk about this movie. I thought we would go Drew, Tony, Julia, and then I'll go. I usually mix up the genders, so this is an unusual order. I'm very excited to debut it in our 307th episode. We're going to go
Drew, it's still Tony. Mixed up because you're going last, so it's just that it's two guys and then a girl as opposed to a guy.
I always go last.
I know, that's what I'm saying. But we're still mixed up. That's all good.
All right. Monsieur Drew, opening thoughts, Satan's School for Girls.
So, the 1970s, was a good era for made-for-television horror movies. You had Salem's Lot, you had Kolchak the Night Stalker, you had the Dan Curtis version of Dracula and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. A lot of cool stuff. So, when I heard that we were doing a made-for-TV horror movie called Satan's Schools for Girls, which is, as Jason pointed out, an excellent movie title. I was optimistic this was going to be a fun little time capsule of the 1970s to enjoy. Oh, but I was wrong. This had all the atmosphere of one of Aaron Spelling's other projects, probably Charlie's Angels, but maybe Beverly Hills 90210. I can't quite put my finger on it. Either way, I had a very hard time keeping my eyes open during this movie because it is boring as hell, which I guess is appropriate because it is satanic. Although not that you would notice that because it doesn't actually get to the Satan stuff, which is why you're watching it to begin with, to the very end of the movie, which brings one of my other complaints. As awesome as the title is, this movie tries to set itself up as a mystery, but it gives it away with the fucking title. So there's no mystery. You just frustrated watching it because you wish there was more Satan booga booga stuff in it. Thirdly, all the cool stuff or possibly cool stuff that I would like, which is like the mystery movie stuff of like a girl running around a spooky building with a candle in the middle of the night trying to solve a mystery, all the stuff that normally I would enjoy, just because everything else was so painfully dull. All I could think about is, man, I really wish I was watching The Old Dark House instead. Like I hated this movie. And I don't normally go off on movies like this. I like enjoying things. And I do, as I pointed out, typically enjoy 1970s made-for-TV horror. Trilogy of Terror, that movie is the shit. This movie was just shit. So that is my opening thoughts, as vicious as they are.
Wow, you're like a latter day Leonard Maltin. You're like, yeah, okay. Strong words from Mr. Drew. Tony, I don't know. Shit, is that where we are? Is that?
No, man. I mean, it's not great, but it's not. I didn't think it was that bad. I think we've watched way worse.
Have we?
Yes.
High
Definitely.
praise.
Definitely.
Yeah, we've definitely. Absolutely.
It's funny. I know we talked about it before. I definitely think like the driving at the beginning, if that wasn't an inspiration from part of that horizontal video writing on the wall,
yes,
I don't know what it is. Also, they use a lot of the tropes, but that's cool. I mean, it's funny too because on Prime it says digitally remastered, and I don't know what they mean because I guess there's different than remastering and restoring because a lot of this is really red and really like there's a lot of film.
There's not a snowball's chance in hell that they did anything to this movie.
But it touts it as
I don't mean to interrupt your opening thoughts, but
no. I mean, you could. What gives it away for most TV movies is the fade to blacks. You can tell. Because they'll do a dun dun dun, and it'll fade to black, and then it'll fade back up, and that's almost always like until fairly recently. Well, especially during the 70s, you're going to get those.
Yes,
that's how you cut to a commercial. That's the way you did it. Nobody was really breaking that mold. I'm sure somebody can go, oh, but this other one didn't. But in general, if it's a made-for-TV movie, that's how you cut it. And that's how this is. I think there's some interesting stuff. I mean, what really struck me is we've seen several movies where the groovy professor is the bad guy, and he gaslights everyone. And this is yet another groovy Professor Satan guy. I guess
in this case, groovy Professor Satan,
right?
But, wait, go back. Groovy professors who are evil.
Right.
Can we think of any? There was the one in The Witch who Mark of the Witch, and he wasn't quite evil. He was just macking on his students all the time.
Right, but he was bringing them to the cool wine parties and being a creep and he's like, hey, maybe the devil's, I don't know, just a religion and Satan's one of those. That guy was creepy, and he wasn't the devil, but he certainly was like, hey, free your mind for some cool devil stuff. By the way, have a little bit more wine. Maybe 4 or 5. I don't know what happens in the coat room. Creeps. In an age also now where you just find out so many people are just freaking creeps. Just horrible, terrible creeps. Watching this guy again, you're like, let me nag on this one girl so I can manipulate her that way. And let me be smarmy to this other girl. Oh, by the way, I just happen to have this wine party if all the women students want to show up.
Yeah.
Creep. But I guess once you find out the real deal, it all makes sense. But still, I didn't think it was as bad as what Drew was making out to be. Maybe my quality bar is low, or I'm just used to seeing I've seen way worse. Although some of the reviews do corroborate with you, Drew, where it says it's a snooze fest. So
hey, different strokes for different folks, but this one really just set off my rageometer.
That's fascinating. Really fascinating. All right. Well, thank you, Tony.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I had there's been movies I didn't want to cover because I hated them so much. So what can I say? At least this one was authentically filmed in the 70s. So,
there's been very few movies where I just, am like full of rage that it exists. And I even have, right now they're not even coming to mind, but I know there's plenty. Julia, to respond to each of those, are you as creeped out by the creepy professor vibe, and also Drew's general take? Like, where did you land on this movie, qua Satan's School for Girls?
Cool. As opposed to Satan's co-ed school or Satan's school for young demons. I actually I liked the movie. I thought it was a good TV movie. I like Aaron Spelling stuff, so maybe I'm predisposed because I watched Charlie's Angels, I watched 90210, I watched Fantasy Island, I watched Love Boat. Like, I've watched everything of his. So it was not something that for me was like not unfamiliar, especially because I knew the actor. I know Kate Jackson, who by the way ends up playing the headmistress in the 2000 version, and Cheryl Ladd, who has a minor role in this. And so I actually enjoyed it. I thought the beginning was great. I loved the opening. I thought it was very suspenseful to just jump in with this whole, like, this woman, trying to get help from a payphone, at a payphone, and freaking out from the hobo guy, and just like kind of just terrified. And you're just like, what's going on? So I thought it was a good opening.
The hobo coming towards her reminded me of like being attacked by a slow moving Mr. Haney from Green Acres. He's just like, hi.
I thought he was like just a stranded traveling salesman.
I know.
Disheveled suit, like, hey, encyclopedias, right? Fuller Brush. I got Fuller Brush, whatever you need.
That is Mr. Haney. Right?
I just want to see a zombie movie, but when you get bit, you get turned into a Haney instead of a zombie.
Nice.
Anyway, I'm just saying. So I think from the beginning, I was kind of like, oh, this is really good open. Again, because I had really low expectations for a 70s horror movie, TV movie. So I thought that was fun. I thought I did think that there were some some things that I wasn't sure, like who was going to be is the hot art teacher the bad guy, or is it the headmistress, or is it the guy with the mustache, or is it all a combination of all of them working together? I didn't know it was going to be that the girls were already, like, basically, it seems like he's kind of picking them off, but I didn't know that they were going to be kind of in on it, like these women, and so there was just a lot of things that I thought were surprising. I stayed awake, and honestly, I fall asleep during about a third of the movies that we watch for the podcast. Before I always have to watch them in two parts because I always fall asleep watching it. So this one kept my interest. So I have to disagree respectfully, Drew, with you.
I figured there would be some disagreement. I came in very strong.
There have been plenty that I didn't like that you liked a lot. So there you go. But yeah, as far as the professor, I think having him be kind of crush worthy and also be Satan is very perfect. Like, that just seems very consistent. With a lot of the crush-worthy professors out there, that are very manipulative and creepy. And I love that the mustachioed professor is basically laying out how it works. Like how he's like, how you manipulate, how you, and then you think maybe he's the Satan because he's got the knife. But no, it's the other dude, and he ends up being killed by all the women, which is like really scary scene when they're all like poking him with the big long sticks in the water. I mean, yes. I don't know. I thought there were some really good scenes, so I enjoyed it.
So I just want to note, this was one of the movies, and I think it's most popular mainly just because of its really great title. But it's when we said, "Hey, gang, do you want us to do a Satanic Panic series?" And I listed several things in parentheses, and one of them was Satan's School for Girls. So we kind of had to do it. Having said that, this is right up my alley. I love this crap. I watched this movie several months ago, back to back with The Initiation of Sarah, which is an almost identical movie. That in that case, the satanic students are like, they're kind of out in the open the moment that the good girl gets there, so that good Morgan Brittany faces off against evil Morgan Fairchild in a college. And to be honest, there's so many similarities between The Initiation of Sarah and Satan's School for Girls that when I try to think of them, I have trouble remembering which scenes are from which movies, because they look the same and they have the same sort of like sting right before you go to the commercial break and everything. So to me, since I'm always looking for movies that are basically just a snow globe that I can shake up and move into the past, this is I love it. I also love that the hot professor is named Clampett, Dr. Clampett, and since the only Clampett I know is Jed Clampett, it's just so funny to hear people talking either with great lust or great fear about anybody called Clampett, and that just makes me happy. Okay, so the movie begins with Martha Sayers. As we mentioned, this exciting what Julia thought was an exciting opening, which Drew was not impressed by. But blonde girl Martha Sayers driving fast, through the canyon. And first thing we noticed, by the way, Tony, is that even though Prime says this movie was restored or whatever the heck it was, I'm seeing even tracking stuff going on. I think this is a transfer.
Digitally remastered is what it said, which is such a catch-all for, we fixed the sound some,
Yeah.
But I love that they make it a point. I didn't see it so much on the website, but on the app, on the Roku, that's one of their selling points. Like,
yeah.
I mean, anytime you digitally improve something, you can stick that on, because I've asked some people about this kind of thing.
It means literally anything that you've tweaked at all. So that's fascinating.
Remastered it. I mean, they could have just improved the audio quality or EQ'd it some, but it does not say digitally restored or 4K remaster or any such claims. So I just thought that was funny when I started it.
I would love to see
at least they kept it. At least they kept it 4:3 because it was television at the time. So they didn't screw with any of that. But
you're saying they could have cut off the top and bottom so that they could make it whatever.
Yeah, they didn't try to do any kind of masking or any dumb crap that just. I know a lot of people hate black bars on the side, but I'm always like, if it was on TV, just give me the aspect ratio that fits my TV. So it's not stretched and it's not stupid. So they did that, and that's great. I'm totally down with that. I'm fine. I mean, I guess Disney learned from how they screwed up The Simpsons. So
tell me more about that. I don't.
They did cropping. Disney Plus finally, the first X amount of seasons
were 4:3. Yeah,
were 4:3, and they cropped it in such a way that they screwed up a bunch of the jokes.
Oh no!
So they finally, over the last month or so, fixed that.
That's just remarkable.
That kind of crap I can forgive a lot. That stuff drives me bonkers, but I don't know.
It's that kind of thing. Because to me, if you're gonna watch an archive piece like this, you're watching it for its entire archival existence. So if you're getting rid of part of the original experience, that's kind of.
But again, people don't, most people don't understand. They see black bars on their TV and they go, why did I buy this expensive TV if I'm going to see black bars? Or, people who never turn off the motion tracking, which you've talked about before.
I wonder, actually, if you turned on motion tracking for this movie, since it's so grainy, would you wind up with a...
Oh, no. It's just going to look grainy. Like, it's going to look like a grainy soap opera.
You wouldn't get a super soap opera effect off of it, I wonder?
Yeah, but it would look like a crappy... you would have all the worst parts of film. And
I don't like the soap opera effect.
What I'm saying is, if you did that, you would get the worst of both.
Yeah.
So please, video gods above, don't do that.
Right. Okay, so
or below, I guess, in this movie.
Martha's on the run. She's driving through the canyon. It looks like an episode, as Drew mentioned. It does. A lot of moments in here could be any moment from Barnaby Jones or Charlie's Angels or what have you. Yeah, for sure.
Charlie's Angels is probably the closest thing. Although, I'm biting through my tongue a lot because I don't want to go through the whole thing in full all hater mode.
Well, you're going to get some opportunities.
Charlie's Angels is far more engrossing than this.
So we'll have plenty of opportunities because they're going to get to the school in a sec. But right now we're in this opening where Martha goes to Pamela Franklin, her sister, who goes to her sister's lake house. So Pamela Franklin, by the way, they never really acknowledge this, but she must be loaded as hell because this is a heck of a lake house. It is beautiful. Martha is afraid of her own shadow. She's afraid of the handyman. She's afraid of the Mr. Haney hobo dude.
She's afraid of the handyman. The guy shows up with a scythe in his hand and shears sticking out of his pocket, pointy end up, open. I'm like, that dude is terrifying. I'd be scared of that dude. I'd be like, back away, and I'm gonna go in my house now.
I mean, again, it starts out like I'm gonna go back to you. When you are aware of things, you're aware of more things. And so the fact that all of these men terrify her is also, if you're watching as a woman, you might go, hell yeah, all those guys are terrifying. I mean, that guy did show up with a blade.
With a scythe, yes.
After she's been indoctrinated by Satan and that's why she's leaving. So it's not out of question.
Well, and we know at the end that he can pop up anywhere. So obviously that's how he's in the house, but we don't see him.
I'm not even saying Martha's wrong. I'm just saying that this is what we are presented with at the beginning, is that this girl is scared of everything.
But that's also the part. Here I am playing devil's advocate. This is also the part that is supposed to be. This is structured, which is one of the things I actually found infuriating about this movie. It's structured like a mystery. So this is setting up the mystery, which is the suicide of this girl, that doesn't technically make sense. So the surviving sister, who plays the detective, goes off to the school to solve the mystery.
Go undercover at a college.
Full 21 Jump Street.
I love it. Come on, man. That is one of the coolest plots in the universe. I love it. Like, my sister is dead, and I'm going to go undercover
all that
in
would
college.
Be fine if it wasn't ruined by the admittedly awesome title. I don't want to harp on that enough. Like, structuring this like a mystery was a bad idea.
Yeah, I guess you're.
I don't know, man. You know, it was a real mystery that there was a Jaws or a Pumpkinhead. I'm devil's advocate right back at you. Like, yeah, they go to the Satan School of Girls, but guess what? I wasn't surprised that there was a shark or a Pumpkinhead.
Different expectations. The shark is basically in all of Jaws. Like you get within the first moments of that movie, you get a shark attack. You don't get any Satan in this movie until it's basically over.
But it doesn't matter because there's so many. How many movies do we have? My favorite example is always Primal Fear, which is there's nothing primal about that movie, and there's nothing really that scary either. Like a lot of films have names that don't have anything to do with the movie. So in this case, at least it eventually does have something to do with the movie.
So pointed question back at you, and I'm not saying this is a great movie. But you brought this up, Drew.
So lay it on me.
You're saying the mystery is ruined by the title, but also the title ruins it because there's not much Satan. So you don't get enough Satan, but it's also ruined by the title. And I don't understand how those.
I think
so if you're gonna give it up with the title, you should at least jump in with Satan pretty early.
I think either you call this something else and make it a mystery, like an occult mystery, or you want to make a made-for-TV Exorcist ripoff and you go full tilt into Satanism. You can't have it both ways.
Well, I haven't seen the reboot from 2000, which is remarkable because that's now 20 years ago, right? I haven't seen that one yet, but apparently in that one, they're it's pretty clear that they're a coven to begin with, and but I haven't seen it, so I'll have to report back. I'm gonna watch it, definitely. I mean,
is that available anywhere?
I don't know. I mean, that for us, we'll find anything. I mean, it's
Jason's special.
He's gonna go on a hunt.
Yeah, we'll find it. I'm not. We'll find it. Okay. So anyway, Pamela Franklin is going to leave her swank lake house behind and go to this academy, which is filmed. Again, I'm really digging the place that this was filmed. Julia, you said you located the actual.
Yeah, I sent. Wait, no, that's a different thing. The place was called the something ranch. What did I tell you it was called? I'll look it up in a second. But yeah, here, I'll find it while we're talking. But no, it's so beautiful. I love the buildings. I love
King
the
Gillette.
arches.
It's
King
the King
Gillette.
Gillette
That was
Ranch
it was
Malibu.
the Gillette, the Razor. Yeah, the Razor family.
Yeah, it's Calabasas, California, and it's really lovely. I mean, you see them, you see her pull up and go into the school, and immediately she meets the headmistress and gets her own room, and it's a groovy spot. I mean, I really, for me, just as a nostalgia kick, I am loving what I'm seeing. I'm loving all of the spaces and and the cars and the clothes and the fact that she's dressed like June from Gatchaman half the time, with like the white bell bottoms and a red t-shirt. It's all like perfect. Wow. I just love all of this stuff. Okay. So very quickly, she starts, there's not a lot of plot here, but we may as well work our way through it. She starts investigating what happened to her sister, and she starts we the viewer, it's unclear, to Drew's credit, the plot, it's unclear exactly what Pamela Franklin thinks is going on, but we start meeting some suspects who might be involved.
Oh, you know what? Before we get too far into this part of it, you know what?
Yes, please.
You know what the scene that I did like?
Yes.
Just so I don't come across as a completely abusive crank as far as this movie goes. The scene right before she goes into 21 Street mode, where she goes and she talks to her sister's old roommate, and her roommate seems scared. That scene had real tension. Both of the actresses do a really good job. Like it's spooky, it's mysterious, it's got all the right stuff in it. Like that to me is the best scene in the whole damn movie.
Well, also and I agree with you, and to your credit, it's disappointing because you also seem to find out that it looks like if she plays ball, they're going to set her up on this awesome career. She's got her own gallery place. Like that's all going to work out as long as she doesn't give whatever's happening away. Yeah. That's the kind of where we're at. So she's, oh yes, the funding comes through. Oh yeah. And then when she breaks down and says, hey, you can't tell anybody. Like she fears for her life, as well as she's going to have this thing if she just goes along with whatever devilry is in her life. And we don't know what that is, because there's shadowy stuff that's happening. When the headmistress gets a call, oh yeah, I totally know who she is. Because that's revealed early on that even though she's undercover, the people that she really needs to be undercover from know right off the bat. Because she gets a phone call right after she meets the headmistress, which is a little getting ahead. But yeah, I agree. We can
jump around.
There's promises. There's promises of a deeper, kind of darker, going back to Race with the Devil, kind of underground. Mm-hmm. And we see that again when we find out, she commits suicide as well. But that never really pays off.
Suicide is a question.
What's that, Julia?
I don't think any of them actually do commit suicide. They just appear to.
Oh, well, I mean, air quotes suicide.
Right. Yeah. The accident-prone lawyers like you have in the firm, right? Where it just keeps happening. Although what TV tropes would call art imitates life, sometimes, or truth in art, I forget what they call it, when something has a sort of a coincidental truth to it, which is that oftentimes you will have a rash of suicides. So that's not, the funny thing is that could happen and the authorities could go, this is a tragedy, but certainly not a supernatural tragedy. It just so happens that this is a supernatural tragedy. By the way, this is Pamela Franklin. This woman, it's 1973. She was the star of a star of The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie in 1969. She was from The Innocents, which is a major, major film. And that was, I can't remember, earlier in the 60s. And she was in Legend of Hell House, which we've already talked about on this show. And that was probably also 1973. So this is a big deal. Is she in
English? Was she an American actress?
She's a British actress.
So because she has an English accent in The Legend of Hell House, and she has a fairly good American accent.
Except that she can't say Martha. She keeps saying Martha.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that was not atypical of actors.
But you know what she gets right? Julia, you pointed this out, that her accent is actually pretty good because she can say the word anything.
That's why I always say that's my one giveaway thing, is that for some reason British actors, and I've actually noted this on Facebook, I'm like, if any British actors are paying attention, for some reason we say anything, we don't say anything. They can't do it, no matter how good their American accent is. Every time they say anything, and I'm always like, oh, British. She didn't do that, so good for
her. Her American accent definitely more believable than the school being in Massachusetts.
This is supposed to be Massachusetts?
Yeah, it's Salem, dude.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Oh my God. Boy, thank you for saying that, Drew. Please forgive me. Up until this moment, even though they kept saying, oh yeah, Massachusetts, there were a bunch of witches and they were hanged in the cellar and blah, blah, blah. And nevertheless, I was like, yeah, this is California. Never, in other words, it just bounced right off my skull that they were trying to convince me that this was New England.
Well,
this looks as much like New England as Tokyo. It is. There is nothing New England about this place. That is amazing.
Well, I mean,
Wow.
I could see because she flies there or whatever because she goes from whatever California, wherever she's supposed to be in the beginning, to Boston.
I'm sorry, I just did a spit take.
Salem, but at the beginning, I could see where you'd hold that because of the beginning. But yeah, whenever she drives there, it's not a Salem you would recognize.
No,
it's pretty conspicuous, but in fairness, again, I'm playing devil's advocate against my own feelings.
Okay.
Once you get to the school, it doesn't actually matter because it becomes contained to the school.
Yes, in a little campus, very small campus.
Right.
And it reminds me so much again of Mark of the Witch that Tony and I watched from 1969, where everything is just around like the 4 miles that this campus is sort of like in the middle of, and I dig stuff like this. I also love the architecture of these places. Like inside, it's got all this groovy like wood furniture, but outside it's all this modern plaster and I don't know. It's a cool look. It's very 70s. A lot of people feel like the look of the 70s is tremendously ugly, and I think it is what it is. It's just. So very soon, let's see. How does this happen? Pamela Franklin, one of her first major clues is a painting by one of the Nervous Nellies that is. I mean, she meets a bunch of the girls. They're really fun. You very quickly sort of are having a good time. One of the girls is Kate Jackson, who is this towering actress. I mean, she's like a head and a half taller than Pamela Franklin, and
which anybody could be in the 70s because everybody was in like platform shoes.
Well, for sure.
I mean, she's tall, but again, that's no.
Yeah, no, that's true.
70s,
that's a good point. And also, Pamela Franklin is not a very tall actor. But
no, she's taller and she's statuesque, but still, it's just let us not forget that it's always hard to tell because or just platform shoes everywhere.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kate Jackson had been on Dark Shadows, the soap opera, up until in the last year of Dark Shadows, until Dark Shadows was canceled in 1971. And then she appeared in the movie Night of Dark Shadows, also in 1971. And 3 years after this movie, she's going to hook up with Aaron Spelling again and do the Charlie's Angels. But right now, I guess she's just bouncing from picture to picture. If there's a big fan of Kate Jackson, she's probably going to go, "No, man, aren't you forgetting this like 2-year television series she did?" I'm sure I am. But anyway, she meets the girls. She meets and
they constantly refer to the headmistress as Dragon Lady.
The Dragon Lady.
To the point where you're like, okay, how many times can you say Dragon Lady?
Even creepy hunk professor calls her Dragon Lady.
Professor Satan.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh God.
How much cooler would it have been if she was actually a dragon?
What a schmuck. What a schmuck. I mean, that guy... go ahead.
Maybe whenever they inevitably do yet another remake, she will be a literal Dragon Lady.
Like the Dragon Lady from The Golden Child.
Yes. Yes. The Dragon Lady is played by Jo Van Fleet. I do not know this actress. I feel terrible. I'm sure she is.
I haven't looked at what I've seen her in, but I know I've seen her before.
I'm sure that she is a major, major performer of the classic age. She was born in 1915. She died at the age of 80 in 1996. She was in a lot of TV. Anyway, she's a grand old dame, and she's she's kind of I will say that what ends up happening with her character is kind of underwhelming, because by the time jumping ahead, by the time everything's going down, she just goes insane and devolves to a child version of herself, which I think is a storyline that doesn't work for me. It doesn't seem believable. It just seems bonkers.
Yeah, they could have done more with that. I agree.
They could have done anything else.
Well, because clearly the idea was that he's been around for decades and decades, and she was a student at the school, and he was around back then. But they didn't really get into that. Like, I feel like
is that what it's trying to get?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think she's been at that school since she was a kid, and that he's been there as well. But I don't know.
I think also it's the guilt. Like, if you're gonna go with she devolves because of guilt and it's just wearing down. There's not a lot. I mean, I guess the phone call she gets where it seems to have some weight.
Yes.
Oh yeah, this is going to happen again. Oh, we got more to cover up. She's kind of telegraphing that. But
yeah.
I agree that you could have done more with that if you'd wanted to. Instead, kind of what Drew says, a lot of the stuff, when they start pushing the third act is where everything gets pushed. It would be nice to sprinkle those bits in a little bit more.
Yeah,
all the stuff ended up at the bottom. It's like the bottom of the cereal box, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I just
true.
wish there had been like, I guess if you really like Nancy Drew, like a lot of this stuff is just fine. I mean, it's not especially good Nancy Drew, but
sure.
If that's what you're coming in for, okay. But like with the title like Satan's School for Girls, I wish there was more horror movie stuff and something that was.
You do kind of expect some sexiness, and that's not there with that title.
Or at least more Satan.
Dude,
like
Drew, imagine being an Italian director like Antonio Margheriti, and it's 1975, and they go, "Hey Antonio, how about we make Satan's School for Girls 2, and it's Italian, and we shoot it somewhere in
the Italian
Rome."
movie would be way different.
Can you imagine? Oh my God, we have to just create like a fake trail to this movie that doesn't exist, like cheap black and white ads for it and stuff, and people go, Marguerite.
This does have like kind of like a very grindhouse movie title, to where you do expect a sort of like sleazy.
Yeah.
A sleazy Exorcist rip off set in a girls' school. and I'm not necessarily saying that I wanted that movie even, like I was actually expecting something more to the tune of Kolchak the Night Stalker,
sure.
Which to me, like as far as like 70s TV horror, like there's like maybe Salem's Lot might be a notch higher, but Kolchak the Night Stalker, as far as like TV movies, there's your bar. And
yes,
because I like that kind of stuff. The fact that this did not do more with the occult elements, and
they could have done it.
Yeah, they could have, but
you could have like cut away. You could even have this story, and you could have occasionally cut it. Each of the girls who commit suicide, all you'd have to do is cut away to her and have some like weird chanting, and then she hangs herself, or she's running and falls in the lake.
But I don't think any of them committed suicide. I think they all are murdered.
You're right. Okay. My point is, you could have had the murders happen, and so then you would have kept up. To get what Drew is asking for, all you'd have to do, and you wouldn't even have to up the violence quotient, you just have to throw in the murders so they happen on screen instead of off screen.
Right. Again, when we say suicide, I think it's universally noted. It's air quote suicide.
Yeah, but he just said you see her hang herself.
Oh, what I'm saying is, if
the devil hangs her or whatever, or coerces her into hanging herself.
Forces, or you see a blade held towards her shoulder blades as she's like forced to climb up the steps and do all the stuff with the rope.
Yeah, I get it.
You could do all that stuff.
Or just more people in robes like chanting in front of a pentagram or something.
Or like poking a voodoo doll or any number of things that you could.
I picture Drew's studio notes or producer notes. We should have more devilry. Can we? I see the Satan School for Girls, but our biggest note is just, you got to go with this on this. Overall, I think it just needs more devilry. Can we include that? We don't even have to have a lot. I would just say, like, I get it's TV. There's only so far we can go with. Just 30% more devilry. And we can really work with this.
More Satan in the Satan movie.
Yeah.
If you can imagine, like Bava had times when, and also Jess Franco had times when they took existing movies and then they filmed new stuff to plug in just to like up the whatever quotient, the gore quotient or the nudity quotient or whatever. So I can imagine somebody getting their hands on this movie.
There's your digitally remastered. Remastered with 30% more devilry included. And it's just You might could this is I want can you sell this to Rob Zombie?
What a fun
he's
idea.
really good at like making cool like set production and
what a fun challenge that would be if you could go,
Like-
I bet you can't spot where Rob has inserted new footage.
Dear Mr. Zombie, we have a project for you. We would like you, a grindhouse aficionado, to add 30% more devilry to Satan's School for Girls. Enclosed is a check for $2 million. I mean, I would actually watch that. Like, I know we like everyone's like. There's movies I don't enjoy that he's done, and some that I do.
Mm-hmm.
But as a production designer, as a person who gets what makes these movies cool,
yeah,
I would watch I would watch this remastered version that I've invented in my head.
I love this idea. We may just have to, yeah, because you could probably buy this for a song. All right. So basically, clues. There's a painting. There's a couple of creepy professors. There's the hot professor, who's played by Roy Thinnes, who was the star of The Invaders, and also would show up in a whole bunch of.
Who knows how to rock a Dracula collar.
Oh yeah, he's a handsome dude. And the other guy is what's his name? Lloyd Bachner. Lloyd Bachner is one of those actors that when you see him, you go, "Oh, I've seen that guy in a lot of things. He's all over the place for like years and years and years and years and years." And he died in 2005 at 81, Canadian, but he was around forever. So, and you have every reason to think that he might be the bad guy. Although not
he's
really.
Obnoxiously creepy.
Roy Thinnes is a creep. I mean, he is a creep. Oh my God. I mean, I got such a gross vibe off of him. The way he just like when later when they're loading the girls into the bus, you know, and he's like, yeah, don't tell the dragon lady, it'll be and he just like he flirts so obnoxiously that it is gross, you know.
He's a cult leader. He's Satan cult leader. Like, it's the way that she talks about him. Kate Jackson is exactly how people talk about cult leaders. Oh, you know, he made us like wake up and see the world. Is it really, you know, all this crap, whatever. Yeah. It's like clearly, yeah.
So everybody starts hitting on him, and he has the whole, oh man, you have it, but you didn't switch with your mind. A, get the hell out of that class. Right. And B, the second part of where you go, oh no, is the girl, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but you have somebody who freaks out and then goes, no, I have to go to his wine party. Let me tell you, Professor Wine Party, creep. A girls' school with the professor who's older than them having wine party and
I agree
about wine. Like this is some stuff you expect from like Robert California from the Office.
Like, anyway, he's a cult leader, like I said. I mean, that's what he is.
It's also weird to me. I think Aaron Spelling's no fool. I think he's trying to appeal to people's prurient fantasies. But the fact that there appear to be like two professors at this university, and they are both men, and one is macking on the girls all the time, and the other is Lloyd Bachner, who is like, no, I'm annoyed.
He's into torturing rats.
Yes.
And he's terrible because he's basically the really crappy manipulative.
Yes.
He's in all this stuff. He's the crappy manipulative psych professor.
Yeah.
So both of them are doing terrible, horrible psychological things. One for scientific, terrible cult things, and the other because he's swinging hot professor at a girls' school.
Also, Satan.
But you don't know which one's Satan. You don't know what, because again, it could have been the headmistress. I guess you don't really know he's Satan.
I don't know yet, but eventually we do. But I guess if you're gonna be Satan, you might as well be swinging hot art professor, no less.
For sure.
Well, you know, credit where credit's due. You know, Jason brought up the name. And in a lot of movies, he would have been named like Professor Thorn or Professor 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 Morningstar, something like that. You know, something. You know, so like that, yeah, like nothing. Nothing was like Professor Satan,
right?
You know, you know, other than his somewhat sleazy behavior.
Jack Diablo.
Yeah.
Jack Diablo, yes.
I'm Jack Diablo. I'm a professor of Renaissance art. And I know a lot about exotic wines and cheeses.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Professor Nefas.
Yes, to say it like
I first saw that trope
Brannigan.
on Family Ties back in the day. There's this trope where Mallory has a professor who like singles her out and starts to like build up her confidence and is like taking out his lute and like playing like Renaissance.
Is it Sting? Was it Sting?
Yes, Sting and his fucking lute. Yes, but he is, and you know, and the whole thing is that he picks a freshman every year to do this and then drops them, you know, and
Don't stand so close to me, but maybe a little closer than that.
maybe right. and it's you know, it's just so funny what a trope this is. And yet here, actually, I'm not sure what the hell we're supposed to think is going. In other words, again, you're right. Because we know somebody's Satan, I can't tell what the audience is supposed to think about Roy Thinnes. Are you supposed to think, I wish that were my professor? Or are you supposed to, like, what is going on? I mean, you know.
Well, he could be the hero. I mean, he can theoretically be the guy who saves them from Satan. Because he is kind of helping them out. Like when they think that the other professor is bad, he's like, "Oh, okay, you know, you guys hide in my office." You know, so I think that's the idea. He's supposed to be the hero.
You hide in my office, but you know, you can drink as much wine as you want.
Yeah, hide in my office.
I like your reference to Robert California because he's exactly the kind of like person who would just like invade your space and start talking about erotic massage and crap like that. And you'd be like, Professor, I don't want to hear about that from you. I mean, honestly.
Any Will Ferrell character.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm just saying, like, but he would go, but I meant in this art, in this painting.
Oh, God. Yeah. To be honest with you, I am really glad that we're in a universe now where that just will not fly. I mean,
except we constantly get a barrage of creeps.
Yeah. It's not supposed to fly, but it's still flying.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully I'm hoping there's more rectification of that, but we've still got decades upon decades of where that did fly. I mean, there's a professor at UT that friends of Rain had to deal with, and he basically got a slight suspension, and then he got whatever extra money to just go not be there. So, and he's a creepy creep. So, you know, we got a long way.
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll get less of that. That would be a nice world.
The thing you made reference to that still totally is just so gross is the gaslighting issue of it. Because not only is it flirting, I'm making references to hot tubs and erotic massage or whatever the hell. And I'm making these references because I'm hoping that you, the student, are going to be turned on and sleep with me. But if that goes south for me, I'm just going to turn around and go, oh, no, that was your imagination. I was just referencing all the things that I've learned in my...
Yeah, let me send to the truly traumatic psych professor.
Yeah.
Since we work in tandem.
Right. Yeah. Ugh. Okay. Speaking of Psych Professor, we should talk about his death. So basically, when what we know, all of a sudden, after we've discovered that, you know,
but way before that, we have, I mean, there's a lot more Nancy Drew stuff going on.
But I think we don't have to work our way through the whole thing. But basically, more suicides. Pamela Franklin begins to think that for some reason girls are being forced into suicide, including her sister. And we think for a moment that Lloyd Bachner is the bad guy.
But because she goes into a dungeon.
Oh yes,
that she finds because of the painting that she sees, and he's down there initially in the dungeon.
She doesn't know for sure that it's him because it's just
right.
But she suspects it's him pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But he's eliminated, and he's eliminated hard by. Turns out that the girls are like Satan ninjas. I mean, they managed to corner him in a lake and poke at him with long sticks until he drowns, which is pretty damn rough.
Yeah, I was like, that's pretty impressive.
Wouldn't that have been a crazy villain? Since we're in the spelling verse, a crazy villain group against Charlie's Angels. So there's like, I mean, they would have done it. They did it like in Gatchaman, but how crazy would it have been that there's an evil Satan group of guess Charlie's Devils or whatever
they'd be called the Seven Sisters of Satan. And,
it would be Charlie's Angels and then like Jack Diablo's Devils.
Oh yeah, right. Yes.
Wouldn't that have been crazy?
They fight with long staffs, which is pretty rocking. Yeah, no, I mean that I agree. And they got those awesome white robes. Whenever they have their meetings, I think they would wear the white robes.
What was
which
he
would be
thinking
cool.
that she's just gonna like put on this robe? I'm like, what? No, you haven't worked nearly hard enough for that yet.
You're absolutely right. To Drew's point, there's something wrong, or rather, I think it was Tony who said that all the plot points sort of settle to the bottom. This thing suddenly kicks in and changes gears like majorly in the last like 20 minutes. You know,
Not even last 20, like last 10.
Right.
I mean, all of a sudden, there's like people in robes and
The stuff that I
fire.
wanted to see, like I wanted like that, all that, like the stuff that we had, like, you know, when we did. Well, I mean, it's a much better movie in general, but when we did Race with the Devil, like
Yeah.
that had everything I would want
Yeah.
from a movie like this. You know, like it had all the stuff and you know, a decent amount of it. You know, like I mean, not everything has to be The Devil Rides Out, where it's like wall to wall cultists and, you know, apparitions, but that would have been good too. Like
Yeah.
this. I just, like I said, I just was frustrating because like if I had paid like a rental or something with this, I would have been really irritated because I would have been out money and I didn't even get what I wanted from this. Like mostly what I got is, you know, Charlie's Angels type stuff, which is, I like Charlie's Angels. I'm not knocking it, but like when something's called, I legitimately wish this movie was called something else.
You're so it's like the comic book cover.
Yeah.
You basically got when a comic book cover says, "And they all die," but
Yes,
we really meant 10 people in the background, or they were clones.
But I feel you, because like I said, it has always bugged me that Primal Fear is called Primal Fear, because I'm like, that is a great title, and it was totally wasted on this movie because this movie is not anything primal, and there's not really very fearful either.
Exactly. This has got one of the best. Like, I agree that this is one of the best movie titles I have ever heard, and it's wasted on this boring ass movie.
So in other words, you would have been happier with this movie if we had called it something like, The Shadows of Monmouth College or something.
No,
I still wouldn't have enjoyed watching it, but I wouldn't be probably doing
disappointed.
Yeah.
I get you.
I've do settle to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
Or you get grape nuts up until the point where it's like, oops, all berries.
Yeah. Well, and they do this thing that's actually very similar to what happens in Halloween H2O, by the way, because everybody except for our main characters gets literally shuttled away from the college. So like everybody gets in vans and leaves, while Pamela Franklin and Kate Jackson are just hanging out, supposedly waiting for the police, which the headmistress did not call. And then the caravan of buses is gone, and so now it's just the Satan girls and Pamela Franklin and Kate Jackson who are looking for help and looking around, and that gets us actually to the very end, which is Kate Jackson betrays her, and Pamela Franklin is
which, by the way, was not a shock. I was like, yeah. Well,
I was surprised. I didn't think Pamela Franklin,
because of how she was talking about. No, I'm talking about how Kate Jackson is like, oh, he's just so great. He's like the best cult leader.
She showed
ever.
me a new way of looking at life.
Like,
no, you're right. She talks about him like he's Charlie Manson. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I don't know how you were fooled, considering how much Jonathan told me watched. She is really the only way it would have been surprising is if,
especially when she has the gun,
she had dispatched with him and become like the new leader.
I thought that she would be that Kate Jackson was an innocent dupe. I thought that was what was going to happen. She has the
gun in her hand and she's talking about what a great cult leader he is, she's for sure.
By the way, how goofy is that? Kate Jackson's like, hey, I know where they keep a gun because the maintenance guy keeps some guns in a locker down in the basement.
That we all have access to when we look for props for plays.
I forgot, by the way, I don't think it's protocol in the beginning when there's a chain lock for a cop who doesn't know where anybody's in there to shoot the chain lock.
The hell was
I'm like,
ridiculous. No, that's absurd.
Or like kicking in something. I don't anything. Else?
She goes, "Oh, can you break in?" And
like,
sure. I got this. And he shoots without knowing anybody who's in there.
No, it's dumb.
Well, and not only that,
you
but
would never
there's
shoot.
no reason
No,
to believe that like wouldn't send little shards of metal at everybody. I mean, there's like all kinds of problems with that.
No,
it wouldn't even work.
It's like I don't think
just.
I mean, I guess we know now that anything goes if you watch the news, but I don't think that's protocol.
It's a chain lock. He could have just like kicked it a little, just a little,
or you could kick it. You could grab that guy's scythe, shooting blindly into a. Or I mean, there's a different name for that, but you know what I mean. Anyway. But the shooting blindly into somebody's house to shoot apart a chain lock. It's
nonsense. So I don't know. That was just there to excite us as the audience.
I mean, yeah, he's taking. I mean, that cop definitely. What else? You gotta wonder that. What else does that guy just shoot? Again, watching the news. I mean,
yeah, I was about to say.
That reminds me of.
I think that guy. Hey, can you open this beer for me? Sure. Everything. Everything gets shot. Hey, I'll shoot that top off for you. No, I got a can opener. No, but I got a gun. I can use this. I
haven't gotten to shoot it enough lately. That was pretty funny.
You want me to open for that? No, dude. I don't.
Do not ask Bobby to open shit for you.
Man, the door handle's stuck. Can you get me some WD-40? Don't worry, I got this. I got a gun. No, I just need I need to keep the door handle. Damn it! Like you can't just shoot everything. That guy.
That's the lesson.
Why not?
Yeah,
that's why I became a cop.
That guy, yes. I mean, yeah, it's prescient. I guess I don't know. That makes me sad to think about. But that was where it started with that. It was just like, whoa, there, buddy.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I and it's just a piece of unreality that you. I like to think that TV today is more realistic, but God only knows. I don't know. All right. So yeah, Kate Jackson betrays her, turns out to be a Satan girl, and it turns out that Roy Finnis is the Satanic Professor. We don't know yet that he's the one.
The Satanic Professor is a great name for and it would be like if it was like the Nutty Professor, but
Are you saying that Eddie Murphy plays all of the devils?
Yes.
The Satanic Professor is a great idea. Yeah, as a comedy. Yeah, nice. For sure.
Co-starring the Clumps.
And Pamela Franklin gets away, and then the film gets quite shocking because what happens right then is bonkers, which is that a fire starts. Pamela Franklin gets away by throwing a kerosene lantern. By the way, my grandparents had a kerosene lamp, right? It's got this big bowl full of kerosene. And it's true. If you were to hurl it at the wall, it's a Molotov cocktail everybody has in their house. And so it sets fire to everything. And, the professor's like, I'm going to go get her. And I'll come back and burn with the rest of you guys. No kidding.
Well, yeah, that was okay. So I agree with Drew.
Yeah, but he goes back. He goes back to walk into the fire.
No, but I agree with Drew that scene. We could have used a lot more of that scene because that was a lot of fun. Where he's just like, oh hey, I need 8 girls for whatever reason, and there's 7. For some reason, my super sexy seductive tricks didn't work on that other one whose sister I killed. So I'm going to go after her, and I'll meet up with you guys later. And they all just stand there and burn up. And so the idea is he's going to meet up with them, I guess, in hell or whatever. And then, he walks into the fire, which I thought was fantastic. I actually really love that. I was like, he is for real Satan because he just walks into a fire, no problem.
Except he just stares at her at the door and then goes, I guess back to the fire. Like his whole attitude, he doesn't like menacing, like strongly walk back. He just kind of looks at her and goes, found me out, I guess.
And then she's like, so then at the end, Pamela Franklin's like, the professor is where he belongs, assuming he's in hell, I guess. But then he's just standing there, like he's standing there in the grass, just smoking a cigarette. I thought that was great. I really like that. I was like, that is perfect. This is like so.
And he left a charred circle at his feet when he disappeared, because he just fades into nothingness. He disappears, like just so lest you're confused. He is for real a supernatural Satan.
And so that tells you what actually happened to the sister, because there's nobody in the house, and then suddenly there's somebody in the house. Obviously, it's him.
Right, yeah.
You know, I mean, at least you're confused that he's just some guy that likes high collars.
Right. I love these Anton LaVey collars. That's groovy. I mean, is
that what you call it? Is Anton LaVey collar? To me, that's always a Dracula collar.
It is, I guess, a Dracula collar. But yeah, you're right. I suppose I'm trying to think.
Anton LaVey was trying to look like Dracula. Thank you very much.
Langella had the big collar. Did Lugosi have the big collar? I'm trying to remember.
Lugosi's collar is high, but it's not quite that cartoonish.
And this guy would have been
this
good.
idea come from? Go ahead.
I don't know, but this guy would have been good in the 70s Doctor Strange TV movie.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No, he would have. He really would have.
Are you asking where the idea of Dracula wearing a cape like that came from?
No, the cape I know came from Broadway, but the collar. What is the deal with the cartoonishly big collar?
I think it's because it gives you kind of a silhouette like a bat.
Yeah. It makes you want to have a protagonist like in the 80s with the popped collar look, but then he's Dracula, so he's somewhere between Saved by the Bell and Dracula, like the popped collar look, but more devilish. Yes. That would have been great. That's a great mashup. I would watch that.
Here's a picture from a very early Dracula play in 1924.
You know, we can't see what you're saying, right?
I know, but I'm narrating to you that
if you were devilish enough, you could.
Yes. And it's an actor named Raymond Huntley who plays Dracula, and he has he has a huge collar like this. So, you know, whereas the one you're right, the one that Lugosi wore was more subdued than that. But this is
when you're Bela Lugosi, you don't have to. Your Dracula-ness is sort of innate.
Julia, if you could just free your mind a little bit, you could just picture that collar. Just from how Jason's describing it. Just change your perception. Close your eyes and then open it back up, and I bet you can view that collar. And if you don't, free your mind, Julia.
I don't know when we will all be allowed to be together in person. Yeah. And the next time we do, we all have to wear capes with collars.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that.
I'm pretty sure I have one for Halloween. I should probably get a better one. I mean, we were at the one school thing where they asked pointedly, "Are you a Dracula?" So
they did.
There you go. Yeah, or vampire. But yeah.
But that is what you are. That's what you're.
Well, I told them I could neither confirm nor deny it because I think
it depends on how high your collar. It depends on how high your collar is. Yeah. We will know how much of a Dracula you are.
You will know him by his collar.
Yes.
Roy Thinnes wears his. What's great about his cape and the collar is it looks nice. It's an expensive one. It's thick, you know, and that collar stands up by itself. I mean, it's very heavy. But the great thing also is it works because then later when the stuntman walks into the fire as Roy Thinnes, you know, he's got that coat on and you can hide everything in it. It can be that.
I'm sorry. I still see you guys talk about it like it's so dramatic, but when I watched it, all I could see was him going, well, back into the fire, I guess. And he just turns around and there's no menace or like, this isn't Jack Palance's Dracula. He's not he's not striding into the fire. He looks directly at her and goes, yeah, but
he's kind of
digged up. I guess there's fire. Where's back of the dungeon? Fire. Whatever, man. And there's no drama to it.
He's kind of I'm with you on that. He's kind of a laid back. I mean, I guess it's befitting the 70s. He's like a disco Satan, you know, like he's
I would watch Disco Satan as well.
Disco Satan is actually a great name for a movie.
I think Satan's a great name.
But Lava Shark Productions strikes again.
Yes.
Right after, what was it? Dinosaur. What was
Dinosaur House Massacre.
Dinosaur House Massacre?
Satan's House of Dinosaur, also good.
Yeah.
Satan's House of Dinosaur. That sounds fabulous.
That's
That'd
the
be like
crossover movie.
Brontosaurus burgers, right? That sounds wonderful.
That's when we create our own cinematic universe, and all the movies cross over with each other.
Ooh, can we pitch that in the MCU? So Satan's House of Devil Dinosaur.
Yeah.
Marvel,
all right.
if you're looking, we got a pitch for you. Although Devil Dinosaur and Moon Girl's really good, so I think they have it covered. But if they wanted a lower rent, like grindhousey version, have we got a pitch for you? Disco Satan sounds good too.
There was actually a Disco Dracula. I just have to mention this, that Judd Hirsch played.
Judd Hirsch?
Yeah,
Seriously?
Judd Hirsch.
Dear John?
Judd Hirsch played Dracula in the Halloween that almost wasn't. What did you call him, Julia?
Dear John.
But it wasn't called
that's
Disco Dracula, it sounds like.
But he was Dracula, and he danced disco at the end.
That does not mean we can't use the title.
That is correct.
So are we done talking about this movie, or do we have any other things to talk about?
No, that's the end. I think we should get our final thoughts. I mean, and despite the fact that Drew really hated this movie, I think it sounds like he's enjoyed talking about this movie.
Okay, yeah. So
that's often the case with movies that we don't like.
Yeah, I will just dovetail off of that into my final thoughts. Yes, nothing about this discussion made me like the movie anymore, but I did really enjoy talking about it.
Right.
So I guess in that way, I did not regret watching it. I don't mind watching movies I don't like for the podcast. I somehow sometimes I think it makes it for a lively discussion. And I think this discussion was lively. And you never, when it's a movie you haven't seen, it's always a roll of the dice. You never know if you're going to like it. And I've been doing all right with a lot of these movies. We've been doing a lot of random movies between the regular episodes and the hangout episodes. And, for the most part, I've come away pretty happy with what I've watched. So I was due to have a really, really, really strong reaction. And this movie is so. I will say this: if you listen to this podcast and you're one of the people who listen to this podcast, and you do not watch the movie prior, you listen to us, and then you decide to go watch the movie. My advice is do not watch the movie. Like watch. I don't like it. There's better stuff you could watch. But thank you for listening to our podcast. All right, I am done bragging on this movie.
Thank you very much. I totally that's totally an acceptable answer. Mr. Tony.
So a couple things. IMDb has nothing for either Disco Satan or Disco Dracula.
Sweet.
So, awesome.
Or the Satanic Professor? I would be shocked if there's no the Satanic
anyway.
Professor.
Yeah,
okay,
that's yeah. I'm not as much like Drew. I think I hate when I hate a movie, and I hate publicly being super critical. I'm not saying that I'm good at not doing that. I'm sure on social media somebody could look it up and go, here's where you said that was total crap and everyone should be flogged for making it. I don't think I said that, but full disclosure, I'm sure there's been something where I've been overly harsh. I do not enjoy hating a movie. In fact, I saw somebody in an industry live tweet how much they were hating something in the industry. So, hey, you're in, name a genre, name a, whatever. And somebody goes, I'm going to live tweet how much I hate each thing.
Oh, God.
And this industry is kind of small.
Yeah.
So I would not advise doing that, but I didn't want to be a downer and go, hey, it's not my job to police that.
Yeah.
Even if you're younger, you're still an adult. But if you lose your job and then you have to go get a job somewhere, if that person worked on that thing, that might not be the best idea.
Yeah.
And you can go, it was jokes, except maybe you needed that job. Anyway, so I really don't like coming in and reviewing or just casing on a movie. And I think overall on this show, I think even if a movie we don't like, we found good things that we enjoy or that are cool and crazy enough to start a discussion. I think that's really, really cool. I enjoyed watching this movie. To me, it was just a crazy 70s thing, and I like bits of it. I like the Nancy Drewness of it. It definitely had a lot of tropes that you've seen, but there were enough little tiny twists, like the scene where they're drowning.
Yeah.
the psych professor, and the way they cut up to it and his plight is actually pretty scary. And in a you could extract that and put it into an even scarier movie. And I think you could do even more with it. Now, granted, also remember, this is a TV movie, and there's a whole way that you do things on TV that's different. And making a TV movie, to kind of go where Drew's going, called Satan's School for Girls, you expect that not to be as much of a TV movie, right? And definitely, if this was a European movie, it would be drastically different. Especially from Italy, but you would get a much different movie. In fact, one might say that you would get Suspiria, I guess.
I really want to see that.
It's not called Satan's School. Like that was not called
totally
Satan's School for
right.
Girls, but you could swap that. If this took place at Suspiria College and that one was called Satan's School for Girls, you could flip that and it would make maybe more sense. I don't know, but yes, that would be vastly different. I liked a lot of bits of this. I definitely enjoyed discussing it, and I would probably watch more of this. I'm also really fascinated by all of the things that make a 70s TV movie, from the score to the look to how much of it was filmed in California that's meant to not look as much like California, because there's many TV movies and they just went like this. Massachusetts, sure. I mean the lighting and the way that all of the trees, all the foliage, that's who cares? Just film it. Here's the money. Massachusetts it is.
Nobody's actually been in Massachusetts, so they're not gonna.
They're smart enough when they shoot Boston that they just cut right into the gallery, right?
Yes.
So that I didn't hate this movie as much. I mean, is it the best movie we ever watched? Probably not. But there are so many other movies that I watch or turn off and then turn on and then go, this isn't for me. So I'm all right with it.
Well, I guarantee you that Aaron Spelling is not. If he's crying all the way to the bank from hearing.
Of course.
I don't think that this movie is so old. I don't think that first of all, if my words can end someone's career,
Aaron Spelling is no longer with us, but your point is still
is
it because he walked into the fire and is now?
Yes.
I will say this. After we come back from our break, I'm throwing this out there right now. I would love to do the 2 Kolchak TV movies if we can get our hands on them.
Oh yeah,
I think it sounds like a great idea. It's a wonderful idea. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
Absolutely. No, they got some great cast. I mean, besides Darren McGowan. So absolutely. Cool. Thank you, Mr. Tony. Julia, final thoughts on we could call it Aaron Spelling's Satan's School for Girls.
Well, and like I said, I'm a fan of Aaron Spelling's work. May he rest in peace. I appreciate a lot of those series. I mean, I've spent many hours watching Aaron Spelling shows and movies. So for me, this is just perfectly in keeping with all of that. I thought there were some great moments, but I mean, as we've talked about it, I definitely think there was some potential that was missed out on, but that's okay. Maybe for the next, and I kind of want to watch the 2001 with Jason, and see if they managed to improve on any of this. Maybe we can.
We'll just spin it tonight.
Podcast episode.
Sorry to interrupt, Julia, but when you're talking about the 2000s one, I just picture I bet if there was a straight to video 90s one that it would have had, or maybe I guess early 2000s. I'm surprised there isn't one with like the Suicide Girls, which would be a totally different movie.
Yeah.
But you could easily make a straight to video Satan's School for Girls and would have everything you would expect had it been done like that. And again, I didn't mean to interrupt, but just picturing that juxtaposition, I'm surprised there wasn't.
The moment you said that, that just is seems like something my ex-wife would have been involved with. So now
no, right? It sounds plausible. And thanks for bearing with me, Julia. Sorry.
No worries. I think that it's that there's definitely some good things and some. I did not, like I say, I find it boring the way that Drew did, but I do think that it had some room for growth, as it were. But that's cool. It's I think it's good for a TV movie. It's going to be one of those that I remember fondly, I think. So yeah, that's all.
Awesome. I love this stuff. This is very similar to what Tony was saying. To me, I I love groovy, slow-moving 1970s, vaguely supernatural mystery thrillers that, meander and then usually wind up with a fiery ending. Somehow, that's just my favorite thing to watch. I watched I think I mentioned I watched the one with Robert Culp the other day, A Name for Evil. Literally a movie that barely counts as horror. And I don't know. I enjoy this stuff. So thank you for putting up with all this. Gosh, okay. Do we have? We should go around for endorsements. And while we're doing that, I will figure out what our next movie is. In fact, hang on just a minute. I can tell you right now. The next one next week. Oh, so exciting! The next movie is The Devil's Reign.
But should we do it next week? Next week is July 4th week, so I think we may be going out of town for the weekend.
Oh, well, okay. So we'll announce that there's a change of schedule. But the next movie is supposed to be The Devil's Reign, which is supposed to deliver exactly the stuff that Drew is saying, like the real deal, satanic robes and chants and
30% more devilry.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, 30% more devilry in this. Ooh, there might even be like 70% more, depending on what Jason's talking about.
Yes.
Although when you say The Devil's Reign, because I definitely have spent too much time on the internet, all I hear is it's sung to the Chocolate Rain song.
I don't know. So
I think of the Misfits song Skulls because he talks about Devil's Reign in that, but it's neither here nor there.
And I think about Jason's grandmother because she refers to Devil's Reign as whenever it's sunny and it rains. So I think of her. That's where I learned that.
Yeah, the devil's beating his wife.
It's got Ernest Borgnine at some points in devil makeup.
Yes.
With big snouts and horns, and it's got William Shatner shirtless and tied down.
I have never seen this movie, but I've heard a lot about it. I am really excited to have the excuse to watch it.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So endorsements.
Yes.
So I went on a Facebook rant a couple of days ago about my issues with the movie Split. Don't worry, I'm not gonna bore you with all of that necessarily, but I will say it had to do with negative representation of mental illness in pop culture, and about how most people with psychological disorders are always the bad guy in pop culture. So with that in mind, one of the few things that does not do that came back to us this week, and that is the second season of Doom Patrol, started on both HBO Max and the DC Universe app. If you have that, that's how I watch it. I think the second season is off to a great start already. They've taken a lot of the relationship stuff from the first season and really built on that. And I just, I have fanboy nitpicks because I love the comics too, but this is such a loving adaptation, and I really, 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 really like it. And I hope more people continue to watch it because I want more stuff like this and less stuff like Split. And so when people are saying, well, what sort of representation would you like? I want something that shows sympathy and gives me fully realized characters and again, not villains. So watch Doom Patrol. Soapbox, I am off now.
Love it. Thank you very, very much. Second season, Doom Patrol. Tony, what do you got for us?
A couple things. I think I may have mentioned it before, but if not, this is not a story about podcast. It's really cool. Lots of interesting bits. There's some really great podcasts. Really great stuff from Walt Disney, Bruce Lee, Bela Lugosi, MGM, Friday the 13th. And I really, really enjoy it. Ted, who does the podcast, is really great. But yeah, this is not a story about.
This is not a story about. All right.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And they're way shorter than ours, around between 20 and 27 minutes, I think, is the longest one. So averaging about 25 minutes. So it's really, really cool. I highly recommend. About filmmakers, so there's a lot of inside stuff. It's really, really good. Also, if you're a video game fan and you like to play couch co-op stuff, like Rain and I play like Overcooked. We found a game on the Switch called Urban Flow, and you basically direct traffic, which sounds like how can that be? But it's really cool and it's less stressful than I imagined it to be. But we were having a blast. You basically, in the 2-player version, you can play, I think you play up to 4 people. You basically can stop and start traffic with traffic lights, but you have to keep it all going and like let ambulances through and all of that. And it's on sale if you bought, which I did, solitaire. The same company makes 2 different kinds of solitaire. And yes, sadly, I mean, just to many people's chagrin, I'm using a Switch who can also play Zelda Breath of the Wild and all these cool games to play solitaire sometimes. Which you could play on, Windows 3.1. So, but because I bought solitaire, because I like that particular Spider Solitaire, they had a discount on Urban Flow, which was really, really fun. So, I recommend that if you're looking for something. Ray and I, like I said, play Overcooked, and that's pretty stressful. I've always said if you can get all the way through with Overcooked with your significant other or a good friend, then you should get a certificate for that's a couple that can stay together forever. If you haven't murdered each other or split up by the end of playing Overcooked, you should
also
probably
true
get a
for
special.
Monopoly if you play with Jason Henderson. It's like
oh, nice. Oh yeah, well Rain, we got Godzilla Monopoly, which they make
cool.
now.
What?
Yes. I bought Godzilla. They also make Godzilla Jenga, which is great.
We have My Little Pony Monopoly.
And
From when I was little.
We played it the other day, and Rain, like, there came a point where, it was tense. So
no, I'm going to have to divorce Jason if we play again, because his strategy is buy the crap out of everything and then charge you, like, exorbitant rent constantly.
Oh, no. This is because, yes, it's because my strategy is buy the first few, which you kind of land on a lot. And then, you're not alone, Julia. but
many marriages are imperiled by
right. But Overcooked is one of those. If you can make it through Overcooked, you deserve a special "we can do this forever" certificate. Because like you should get a special, like if you go to a restaurant and they'll be like, "Oh, Overcooked too. 3 stars everything." Yes, you are a couple you've made it. But yeah, that kind of thing. But yeah, this Urban Flow game. Really, really fun. We've made it, 10%, 20% of the game, and it's pretty cool to play couch co-op. So I don't know if there's an online mode. I haven't checked because we're just hanging out. So in a time when you're home all the time, I'm going to recommend that. And then when you're not playing that, like I said, listen to This Is Not a Story About, which we'll
Wonderful.
Post the link to that podcast on the site. Hey Jason, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
In the chat.
Okay, excellent. Julia, what do you have for us?
Gosh, I just consumed very rapidly in 2 nights the series Defending Jacob on Apple TV, which stars Captain America and Miss Mary from Lady Mary from Downton Abbey, Chris Evans and Michelle Dockery. And I loved it. I had already been excited about it because they were on the Graham Norton show, and and Chris Evans goes, I'm sure that that the vector, that the intersection of the 2 circles and the vector diagram between Downton Abbey and the Marvel universe is like huge. And I'm like, right here, baby. I've seen every episode of Downton Abbey and all of the Marvel movies many times. So I was eating it up just for that. But it's a really good movie. I mean, it's a really good series. I found it very suspenseful, very as a parent, super stressful, but really just as a human being. But so good. So I definitely recommend it if you can. Even if you don't have Apple TV, if you just want to get it just to watch that, and then maybe the Tom Hanks movie next week. I don't know if I'm assuming it'll be good, the World War II Tom Hanks movie. But yeah, for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, well, since you endorsed Defending Jacob, which I was there for when you were watching it, my endorsement is the Silent Patient, the novel, which both of us read, and we spent some time listening to the audiobook and alternating between the book and the audiobook. And the Silent Patient, it was really fantastic. It's just a very, very suspenseful thriller about a psychotherapist who is trying to get through to a patient in a state hospital who has gone silent since she was, she appears to have murdered her husband, and it has lots and lots of twists and turns. And it's very good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry?
Alex Michaelides is the author.
Alex Michaelides, yes, indeed.
Super successful.
And my other endorsement is a weird one. I was checking earlier if this still existed, and for some reason it does. Zombo.com is a website that if you go to it, it has a lot of like blinking colored dots, and a guy says, "Welcome to Zombo.com."
I still go back and forth between, is that the best thing or is that a telephone Manchurian Candidate thing that everyone who's listened to it, at one point somebody's going to put the Zombo protocol.
Yeah.
And all of us who have listened to it for a long time, something nefarious.
Well, I have not, so
It has been running since 1999.
Right.
And it is so weird. I remember once I was working at an agency in about 2000, and we worked for hours on some projects, and we just let it play over and over again. Welcome to Zombocom. This is Zombocom. Yes.
I love it. And whoever did the voice acting, fantastic. In fact, it was weird because it's embedded in such a way in Flash that it's really hard to extract that audio, because I wanted to try to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always thought that there's always the possibility that Zombo Protocol 349 will be enacted. And Julia, be careful of that. If you hear a weird phone call and then you overhear over the phone, Zombo, and Jason all of a sudden stands up, like, get out of the house. Maybe it's not going to be bad, but I wouldn't take that chance.
Julia, I recommend. I think you should hear Zombocom.
See, that's just what somebody who was part of the plan would say.
Exactly. No, I have to be. There has to be.
I recommend you also listen to Zombocom.
There has to be somebody in the house who can get the children out when you start acting crazy.
Right.
You can do anything at all at Zombocom.
Right.
No, I can't.
The infinite is possible at Zombocom.
Yeah. No, but yeah.
Oh my
and
God.
all the things Jason's saying, like, I enjoy this and it's awesome, but also as a person who's watched enough movies, I'm just saying, Julia, be careful.
Yeah.
And you need to be the one in your family who hasn't been to Zombocom.
And happy 21st anniversary, Zombocom. I don't think it's actually their anniversary this week, but more or less. So
I have spent all of my money to Zombocom. Happy 21st anniversary, Zombocom. We are now bankrupt for Zombocom.
So I don't know if we're back next weekend, but if we're not, enjoy 4th of July. If we are, we will talk to you then. But everyone, have a fantastic week. Be excellent to one another, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Night.
Good night.